Hello everyone, this is Michelle Stelling with the National Association of Digital Scrapbookers, and in this segment we're going to be talking about creating pop-outs. I sometimes call them photo frame pop-outs as well, as you'll see by these two samples right here. Basically what you'll do is you'll take a frame and you'll box it around that photo, and part of it's going to be sticking out of that photo to make it look more 3D. I'm going to go ahead and work with this photo right here. So the first step is to open up the photo, and I'm going to go ahead and place it on a new sheet of paper. So I'm going to go File and New and Blank File, and I'm going to go with 8 inches by 8 inches, and I'm going to go with 300 resolution. Now your size may vary. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my Move tool and move this photo into my layout. So I'm just going to drag it and drop it. I'm going to close this one out, and the photo is a little bit too large, so I'm going to go ahead and show my bounding box and take it from one of the corners and make it a little bit smaller, right about there. Okay, the next step is I'm going to create a blank layer and put it underneath this layer. So I'm going to go to my layers panel, and you'll see that you do have that background and you do have that layer 1. And I'm going to go ahead down into the bottom left hand corner and create a new layer. I'm just going to drag that and put it in between there, put it underneath this. I'm going to fill that layer with a color that I'm going to pick from this photo. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to get my eyedropper tool, and I'm just going to pick one of these green colors from this forest back here, and you'll notice this is the color that it's picking. I'm going to take my paint bucket tool and make sure I'm on the correct layer, click somewhere inside there, and then it fills up that whole entire area with that color. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that top layer, and I'm going to create another new layer on top of that. And then I'm going to take my rectangle marquee tool, and I'm just going to box around an area here, sort of like right about here. I'm going to move that over just a little bit. The pieces that I want to be popping out of this photo, it's pretty important now that you have them kind of popping out at this point. So I want the tops of their heads to pop out and this back side to pop out. So I'm going to go ahead and go right about here, and that looks pretty good. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put a stroke on that. So I'm going to go to Edit, Stroke Outline. I'm going to make sure that my location is set to inside, and I want this to be 40 pixels, and I want it to be white. So I need to click on this color here and pick white. 40 pixels inside. I could go heavier than that if I want to. Let's try 50 and click OK. Alright, looks good. Now what I want to do is I want to transform that. So I'm going to need to go to Image, Transform, Free Transform. See, I still had it selected, so make sure it was selected. And then I'm going to hold down my Control key, Command key on the Mac, and you'll notice now I've got the little arrow, and I can kind of transform it by skewing it a little bit. So I'm taking it from this bottom corner, pulling that up. I just want it to look like it's kind of going back. Okay, and you can skew it as much as you want to. Once you have it to the point where you like it, go ahead and click Commit Current Operation. So our next step is a little bit tricky. What we need to do now is we need to go and select the parts that are going to be popped out of that photo. So I'm going to go ahead down to my layer 1 and select it. We have this selected, and we will be selecting that again to delete this part here, but I want to work on this first, so I'm going to go ahead and click somewhere outside of the box there to deselect that. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in to the area that needs to be selected, and basically the heads, the tops of the heads need to be selected, and over here needs to be selected. So you might have to go back to your layers palette, and you may have to turn off this frame here so that you can see. But I'm just going to go ahead and keep it as is and take we can try different selection tools. Maybe the quick selection tool might work pretty good. So I'm going to select around his head here and over here. And you can see that I selected a little bit too much, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in even closer so I can get a tighter selection. And I'm going to trade it off with a lasso tool. I'm going to hold down my Alt key to deselect this area. See how it turns into the negative? Okay. And I'm not going to get too picky. You could also put a slight feather on this if you think it is needed. So let's zoom back in there again. I need to select a little bit more of his hair right here. So I'm going to add some to this selection. So I'm going to just choose the Shift key this time. And that looks pretty good. Then I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side and I'm going to hold down my Shift key again and just select part of his shirt here. Keep going down here. I'm going to add to that selection. I'm holding the Shift key down to add to that selection. And I'm just going to loosely get that here. My mouse isn't cooperating with me. I don't have my tablet. And I'm going to hold down the Alt key to delete a little bit of this. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the inverse. Select inverse. And now I'm going to go down to this layer right here. Make sure I'm on this layer. Take my eraser tool. And you may have to enlarge your brush. You could use the right bracket or left bracket. And I'm just going to start erasing this area. Now you have to be very careful because you don't want to go like this. Okay? So I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to make my eraser a little bit larger. And see how I'm kind of, oops, I make sure I'm on the right layer. And I'm going to click here and I'm taking the eraser tool and making my brush the size I need to. I'm just going to kind of come over here. You don't want to get inside of that frame. Okay. You may have to make the brush a little bit smaller in some areas. Paint down here. Remember, don't go in like that. Let's undo that. If you do make a mistake, you can always undo. That looks about right. And then you can deselect. And now what we have to do is we need to go on that top layer where the frame is, and we need to delete this area. So I'm going back in there, taking my eraser tool, just deleting this area here. And there's many, many different ways that you can do this. This is the quick and easy way to do it. And you might need to get your brush size down a little bit smaller to come in here. And that looks about right. And I'm going to go ahead and double click on the hand tool. Go on into the bottom left hand corner here. Go back and get my eraser tool and erase this part. Again, you can always undo if you take too much off. There we go. Bring in a little bit of this. Double click on the hand tool. It's a little bit rough over there, but I think you get the idea. Okay, let's go ahead and look at it in full view. And there you go. You've got your pop out. If you wanted to move both of them at the same time, you can highlight the Shift key and you can merge those two together, but you can move it anywhere on your page that you want to. You can also change the background color if you need by just clicking on that, going and getting your paint bucket tool, changing the color. I kind of like it back to the green color. The last part that you can do is to make a shadow, drop shadow on there. So go to your layer that is the frame, go to your effects, double click on one of the drop shadows. You can also try it on the image itself to see if that looks good. And there you have it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want to learn more about digi-scrapping, you can go to naods.com, and we got some great specials going. Thanks for joining me.